There's nothing wrong with your television. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are broadcasting live from model schools in the dark for one very specific reason. And it's because we have a new backsplash to introduce to you folks. So thank you to Alana. We bring you what looks like this. You're not on the deck of the Battlestar Galactica ship. You're in the right place if you're here for live from model schools. To my right is Alana. To my left is May. I'm Leslie, and we will have a special guest joining us, but we thought it would be neat to kind of start out in the dark, give it a little bit of ambiance in the background. Yeah. They might wonder what we're up to.
Ooh.
So,
and here we go.
It just entered, for all intents and purposes, the Google zone.
Yes.
So we'll give you folks a chance to get into the back channel. Again, if you'd like to join us by chat, you can see on the lower third of the screen, it's todaysmeet.com/lyricms. And we want to thank our friends from Peekskill for being here. Who else do we see in the room? I think our colleague is joining us from another room.
Janice is here.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Janice and Millie. A little shout out for you folks.
Yeah.
If you've never participated in this format before, just know that we're streaming this live, so you'll be able to access this after the live broadcast is over. But feel free to communicate with us through this Today's Meet channel. So without further ado, I think we'll flip on the lights so we can actually see our
so
faces.
we're not. It's really not our Halloween episode,
right?
But maybe we should have done this for that.
So I don't know if you folks can see, but we wanted to have, I think our last broadcast seemed like ages ago. It was probably around the holidays.
Yep.
Yeah, I think my hair was a lot shorter then.
Check the halls.
Right. So we wanted to make sure that we reserved this particular broadcast to talk about, I think we're really focusing on Google. It seems to be such a topic of conversation, but we have a great guest joining us.
And our official topic is actually, if you can see it behind us, going green with Google. So that leads us into our.
So it is, hopefully springtime is going to be here by the time this broadcast ends. But we wanted to reserve one particular episode, and each one of us is going to take a slightly different slant. In about 10 minutes, we're going to be joined by our guest. And Alana, I don't know if you want to give some ideas about who we're going to be talking to and why, when this conversation actually started, because it started after we met him at Tech Expo last year.
So our guest today is Adam Schoenbart, and he was last year's Lyric Pioneer Award winner.
Yes.
He is doing some pretty innovative things with Google. He's also a Google education trainer. He presented at so many conferences. He presented at GAF New York, and he's presenting at GAF New Jersey next week.
And he's Ossining High School.
Ossining High School English teacher. He also, which I think is interesting, and people might want to ask him questions about this, he did a presentation called Chromebooks and Common Core.
Which very interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
So he has been, we had a surprise for you, but now that we're not going to do it, we might as well spoil the surprise.
We were going to actually have two guest presenters. One of them was going to be Marcus from Brewster High School, and we were going to have two English teachers in the region that both integrate Google, and then I was going to have them, I asked them each to Google each other, and then they were going to kind of interview each other and ask each other questions. So that would be a twist.
Just a dueling kind of a platform.
Yeah.
Sort of like, what do they call that? The throwdown match or something?
Yeah.
Well, it's nice because we don't think these two have had contact before
They
today.
never
So
have.
we're making a
They
connection.
never have.
And I will say, we will thank Marcus. We'll give you a shout out that apparently Marcus is going to join us maybe for next month.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And he sent me some links to something he's doing in the classrooms.
Because your colleague
like a
Brendan
preview.
has spoken very highly of all the work that you've done, and now we're discussing you live on a Google Hangout. So
He's probably saying, what?
so I'm going to be monitoring the back channel a little bit, and I think maybe what we can do, May, I know you have something that you'd like to share, and I have a few stories from the field. I've been out in districts a lot. I haven't really seen you ladies. But
I know.
Tell
This
you
is exciting for us.
A few things that I feel has been really, like an accelerant. I think we called Google Classroom especially an accelerant.
Yes,
So I'll dump out some of the stories, and then when Adam joins us, we're going to give him the floor. So
Okay.
would you like to start and prime the pump a little bit?
Sure. I'm actually just going to show a little tool that's on Google. Sometimes, I don't know if you ever go through Google and you click on to your mail and your calendar, maybe Drive, when you have Google going up, you can see more and then even more on.
You have to dig a little bit.
Yeah,
to
you have to
find what
dig a
they're
little
up
bit.
to.
So, I thought, let me dig around and see if there's something in there that might be kind of interesting. And in the spirit of maybe going green, I don't know if any of our longtime listeners, watchers, viewers have clued on, but Alana here, my colleague, is very paper conscious. She encourages us all to not waste when we can do things electronically. I'm sure you'll agree with me on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
And
said
she's
it
the understatement
nicely.
of the year. by the
Yes,
way.
yes.
Yeah.
Alana is the friend to the trees. So I looked at Google Keep, which I don't know if Alana's going to be able to post up to.
We'll just share
I'm going
from
to share the screen and then you'll just take over and
Okay.
walk us through it.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to show because it's a neat little thing that, if you're a person that likes the idea of Post-its and keeping your notes in one spot, this is kind of a neat way to do it. And I just threw something together pretty quickly. I'm going to take a look at this here. Okay. And I don't know, can our viewers see the screen that's on here?
If you're in the chat window, you can be our eyes and ears out in the field and just let us know that you can now see the screen. That's Google Keep.
Yep, it's got like a few different colors. It looks like Post-its on there. So it's kind of neat in there because it's a way for you to sort of keep your virtual Post-its, your virtual task list here. You can see the screen here. You can see I have a white Post-it and I titled it Going Green with Google. And you can make it sort of like that good old to-do list that we all have and we have around. And what's nice is that I just started this Google Keep today and it had all of these suggestions on here for me and I wanted to leave them up on the screen. That if I wanted to put a new note, I could put a new note up here and say, get milk. Like say if I wanted to pick that up on the way home, I can change my title. Let's see if I can do it this way.
So May, you log in using your Google account, and this is just considered another Google app that ties to your ID?
Yep.
Okay.
And look, I put that right there on my Post-its. I can change it to become a list format if you're like a list person.
Nice.
But I don't know. I kind of like this virtual background idea to put things around. I can change the color of my Post-its. Like if I were like, oh, my personal things are all going to be red. But then when I'm done with it, let's go back into this. I can share it with other people. So if I wanted to share something, for example, I shared this with Alana and Leslie, that they can all see my list for Going Green with Google and they can use it on their Google Keep.
It's nice about seeing a splash like this.
Mhm.
There's a lot of teachers that I'm working with that are looking at using, again, some of the Google tools for graphic organizers. And right now they're using drawing, and it takes a little bit of time getting used to.
Mm-hmm.
So are we saying that maybe students could use this as a project planning board and the same sharing permissions would be intact because, again, everyone's federating by their Google account?
Excuse me. Yeah. It's funny you should mention that, and the way I hope I'm not violating any copyright or ads or anything by using the term Post-its. But there was just a talk by an organizational specialist in my school district.
Oh.
I don't know if any of you are familiar with the book Organizing the Disorganized Child. I think you could cross out child and put adult there, it still works. But it's really a fantastic, way to get your student organized. And one of the things that the author always recommends is like a Post-it calendar to help students that need that visual organization to move things around. And I see Google
And the
Keep as
ability
something
to
like that
tear
to
something
tear it
out,
off.
right.
Yeah. And the best part about this, when you're done with it, you just swipe it away, but there's still an archive of those Post-its. You know, we all know how satisfying it is to like crumple something up and throw it in the garbage.
Exactly.
I always have that fear that, oh my gosh, I'm going to need the information that's on there. So I end up making myself, it looks like a scrapbook, all of my Post-its and to-do lists. I see this as the digital scrapbook where it's there for my reference. I can search on it. I can share it with others. And
Very
it's
app-friendly, I'm sure. So
yeah,
there's
and
probably
it's
an Android
visually appealing. Yeah, you can have it on your phone. Let me just pull that up here.
So we're going
to switch the screen again. Yeah, I'm going to show you there. Okay. One of the things they say on here is that you can see it through Chrome, on Android, or just by going to keep.google.com, and that's tied in with your account. So imagine that a teacher could be on a note with a student, a reminder with a student. They could push it out to their class. You could have parents and students, or maybe if you have a special educator or somebody that you want to work with, like a coach, you have a way to share those things. My vision was, as you can see by my Get Milk, is to be able to remind my husband to pick up milk and eggs at the supermarket.
Brainstorming.
Yeah, and you can have a reminders on there based on either a time or a location. So it's a lot similar to the reminder system. If you've got like an Apple device, they have that on there. Well, now you can have it with your Google devices. So I think it's worth investigating. And if you find a way that you are using Google Keep or a suggestion, send it to us. You can join us on our Google Plus page. We're in a community, Live for Model Schools. If you want an invitation community, let us know, or you can just send us a note on today's meet or a comment.
So
on
I
our
wonder,
Facebook page.
whoever's in the back channel with us, I wonder, is this, it seems to me that you start out with a tool like Evernote, and I know that it was huge in popularity.
Right.
And
it's Google's version of Evernote.
But
Yeah,
what's
I
nice
think
about
so.
it is that, you know, with Evernote, there was really a rich feature set. And for some people, that tended to be the tipping point.
Overwhelming.
It's something I want to use, or I don't need to take all these web clippings, and I don't need the trunk or, you know, the additional pieces that were part of it. But what's, again, to me, what's very appealing is that it's like a Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
So for you, it's an organizational tool. For somebody else, it might be a way of looking and managing. If you do a lot of project-based learning, it could be a way of having a splash up on the screen to show you the progress that each group is making. Because I'll tell you, you know, we're going to kind of unpack Google Classroom, and Adam's going to unpack it for you, and he's probably going to talk about his experience. But one thing that I've seen is that there are features of it missing. And I don't know if it's even heresy to say that. I'm surprised the Hangout didn't shut down. I'm saying that right now, but I mean, there's, you know.
Well, so Heidi from Clarkstown was actually one of the 3 teachers that worked with Google to develop Google Classroom. So if you watch the Google Classroom video, she was an extremely pregnant teacher. She was 8 months pregnant, I think 8 months. So it was the most painful day of her pregnancy, the day they filmed the commercial. What she does is every single day still, there's a little question mark on the bottom right-hand corner of Google Classroom. You submit feedback. She submits the same feedback every single day.
Does she monitor
and
how well it is received?
And it eventually does. So what she was saying was she would post an assignment, and her assignments are sometimes ongoing assignments. So then she has a due date. But then after the due date, she changes the due date because they're going to work on that same project for longer, but there was like a check-in date. So she has to scroll all the way to the bottom to find the assignment to then change the due date. Well, after Heidi harassing them, not really.
Badgering
she's
Google.
not actually harassing them. They added the assignments page, which they never had before. So her suggestion, which she tells me to encourage everyone to do, is to submit feedback, because
feedback they don't know.
They will take it into consideration. If enough people give enough feedback, they'll add the feature. It is in development.
I think everyone knows by now that there's the ability for a teacher to actually see assignments that span multiple classes.
Yes.
Because most of the teachers that I'm working with in classroom, they don't just limit it to one group. You know, many science teachers I know teach
Multiple
multiple
sections,
sections.
yeah.
They may be a little bit askew if they're doing an AP section or, I guess just a general section. It's that one place where they can actually see their assignments and the ability to archive.
Yes.
Is another thing that's huge. And the ability to actually recover deleted posts on the stream. Now, I don't know if that was always built into it. I think that might be considered a newer feature, but
I don't know. I don't know if that was the original launch.
I started using it.
some classroom teachers, and I've experienced
Yeah.
this, so kind of being out, there are times where we had to look at the stream and temporarily shut it down. Not for
Or you
anything
could-
heinous, just
Or you
it got
could
out of control.
mute a specific student if you want to, so it doesn't affect everyone for one student's poor choice.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I think, just a matter of positioning it in the best possible
Yeah.
light. But one thing that's helpful for kids to know is that, again, you can't unring a bell.
No.
It's really a good skill to always assume that
Yeah.
whatever you do is going to follow or be able to be traced. So
Yeah.
you can actually recover those deleted posts if you ever had to do any forensics.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
Adam
sort of a nice.
is ready.
Oh, he is ready?
But
Okay.
before that, I had two things I want to share that I just think everyone forgets about. Is if you're in your drive and you go to new, you could connect more apps, and a lot of people actually don't have the template gallery, which I
Really?
thought everyone knew about.
How
But
is that
some
possible?
people don't know about it. So in the
I
template,
feel like I'm guilty
I
now.
know.
Now I feel like, oh, do I have the template?
I don't
gallery?
know, but you can look through the template gallery. There's a whole education section, and you can find templates that people already created. It kind of makes it more like, remember Publisher for Microsoft Word?
Oh,
You could
yeah.
find a really fancy layout that someone else already created.
So
and
that's
just
an add-on.
use their template.
You can actually do
Okay.
an
It's an
add-on.
you go to your drive, you click New, More, Connect More Apps, and you look for the template app. So
Okay.
I just wanted to point that out. And another thing is within each app, like Docs, spreadsheets, and slides,
Mhm.
you can add on. There's add-ons. So from the tab, you have to be the originator of the document. You go to add-ons and add an add-on. There's so many. I can't even recommend any because it's specific to what you do and it helps you automate what your specific job is. So everyone would be unique and different.
That's
But
wonderful.
one that everyone's really loving is Text Help Study Skills, and it allows you to highlight in different colors on your document.
Yes.
And then it sorts the vocabulary words by color in a new document.
Is there any
Wow.
way we can show that on here or your?
No,
I
I'm
think
not
we're
logged
going
in
to
on
take
my
some
account here,
screenshots.
so,
I just put
yeah.
this, I said we'll put a screenshot of the template add-on. We'll put that in our Google community. And that way our viewers can have a link to it. We'll also post a link on our Facebook page and, on
And
our Twitter
underneath
feed.
the video in YouTube. Also.
Yep. Yep.
There's
There'll
an
be some links to
excellent
that.
speech to
So-
text, and there's Kaizena, which is getting
Oh, yeah,
stronger
that's
every
great.
day.
Yes.
So for voice notes, so all of
Mhm.
this will add to the Google Plus community, just so that you can recap and see some of the things that we've been talking about. But
Yeah.
actually, without further ado, we are going to bring in Adam, and I fear pronouncing his last name.
Schoenbart. I
Schoenbart.
think I'm pronouncing.
Did we get it right, Adam?
He'll tell us in a minute.
Well, here he comes.
So he is joining us. This must be the end of his day at Ossining High School.
Oh, yeah.
That's I was going to show that one because now there's a really easy add-on for that, and you could highlight the text and just record your audio notes right in it.
And to be honest with you, it works very well. I've done it with a MacBook. I've done it with a Chromebook. I think I've done it with another type of device.
Here's Adam.
Hey guys.
Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Adam, the last time I saw you, you were receiving an award, and I don't think I've ever even met you formally or personally. I stalked you from a distance, and I said, Alana, see if he wants to be part of Model Schools Live.
Well, I can say I've just heard the legend of Adam. So
Well,
I'm
Very nice to meet you all digitally here.
yeah.
I was like the weirdo that went up too much because I had to do the Pioneer Award videos for the presentation. I was like the stalker. I was like, I feel like I know everything about you because I made the 3-minute video. And he's
That was
like,
literally the conversation.
That's
yeah,
right.
literally
Yeah.
that was, right?
Adam, I love your lower third display. Is there a story behind that?
I taught him how to do that yesterday.
You
but
did.
that's his logo. That's
Uh-oh.
his image for Google Plus.
So I'm a comic book fan, and all my students know it. So pretty much since we first became a GAFE school and they needed an icon, I didn't have a great professional picture at the time. I'm not a big fan of selfies, so I just decided I'd go with Spider-Man, and it stuck.
That is
I like
fantastic.
that.
And I love the dual face too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that idea of the consistency with it. So like on any of their work, on anything we're doing, on any post, they know it's me.
So Adam, you know that with great power comes great responsibility, right? Does that ring a bell?
Oh, Leslie, you
That's
went
coming.
there.
Well done.
You
Well
went
done.
there. How many people say that to you?
Heard it a few times.
Too many.
Yeah.
So Adam, I'm actually going to enjoy this as much as everybody because I'm not sure what the script is, but we'd love to just give you a platform to talk about and show what you're doing, and then we might chime in to see if there's any questions from the back channel that we're facilitating. So feel free to start the journey, and we'll pop in as needed.
All right. Well, all right. So for whoever is watching out there, I'm an English teacher in Ossining High School, and we became a GATE district at the beginning of last year. And I was part of a training cohort where I got a Chromebook cart, and I kind of decided I'm going to jump all in and see what I could do and what I can change and what I can make better in my classroom. So I jumped right in from day one with Google Communities, which is one of the Google apps I'm most passionate about. And then since then have kind of branched out to pretty much everything except Hangouts. This is actually maybe my second or third real Hangout besides filming some flipped instruction. So I'm learning this too.
Yeah. See, you're a person I would think would be doing Hangouts on a regular basis, but that just shows there's so much in the Google stable sort of that, you know, you pick and choose what works best for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I was telling Adam yesterday, I have now learned not to assume that people know how to do a Google Hangout, because even Adam, who's a Google education trainer and who uses Google all the time, didn't know how to add the lower third. People don't necessarily know all about every single tool.
There's so much to learn.
Like experts on what they use.
Right.
And one of the coolest parts with that is how so much of this is open source and kind of crowdfunded and crowdsourced, that things are constantly changing and adapting. Google's great about getting feedback and making changes to things that the people say they want, but also that there's so many add-ons, so many ways to customize that there's not necessarily just one way to do it, which is one of my favorite parts.
So Adam, I'm just curious. You'd mentioned kind of starting out with an emphasis on Google Communities. I'm assuming that do you mean Google Plus?
Yes.
How did you, so what was the intrigue about that, and what was the insight, and how did you generate interest? Because a lot of the districts I'm working with, it's you know, part art, part science of getting people to feel comfortable really getting into the habit of posting or contributing in an online community. So tell us how you started and what was difficult about it, and just, you know, give us some history behind that.
You could show us his community.
Oh, and I wanted to, I have a question that adds on to that, because I want to know if it's just students or if it's teachers as well.
Good point.
All right, so why I chose Communities is basically because it was, at the time, what was available and what was modeled for me as like, oh, this is one of the things it offers, and I thought, oh, that's cool, and let me see what it has. And we used to use another system where we had a kind of bulletin board, message board sort of thing, and I did not like it at all. It wasn't very user friendly for me. It didn't allow me to do what I really wanted in the classroom. But when I played around with the community, I saw the way that students can interact and share, give feedback, and how intuitive it was, that it really is like a social network for education. That I love that it takes the cultural capital and the language that students already know and use in their lives on Facebook and Twitter and all these other applications, and then gives them a school-specific and safe and closed community to take what they already do and apply it to their learning, which I think just enhances everything.
Right. So you want to show us an example?
Sure. All right, so.
He knows how to share screen.
Yep, let's see if I get this right.
Something every day. Yeah.
All right, so here, these are all my communities I've got up right now. So, I'll show you. So what I tend to do is I like to have a different community for every one of my classes, except this year in the SAT, ACT review classes in Ossining. And if this is working right, you're seeing me scroll through.
Yes.
Yep, I see M&M.
Cool. That we have one community for all our ACT, SAT students this year. So it's one big community for all the learning. Nice. So let's go through a little more, then switch back here. What I love is you can see how intuitive it is. It's so easy for students to share. Here we have visual vocabulary. Students are defining vocab words, illustrating it through images that they take and create.
Beautiful. Which leads me to believe they're probably experiencing this on their phones, right? More than just a desktop or workstation experience. This is a phone experience for them.
It's on every device. For now, in my classes, I have a Chromebook cart in my room, so we use it constantly. But I from day one, my kids have their phones out. They're doing whatever device works for them. I'm happy with. But what I love from some of the things you just saw is how easy it is for students to collaborate and comment, but also to embed their learning. They can do quick research and post their links and cite their sources, collaborate, and really it's a whole new depth of knowledge, and it gives us a whole artifact of all the learning in my classroom.
Adam, did this take initially, or was there a time that it went from like cool to warm to hot, or you hear different experiences and you don't want to discourage people. Sometimes there is a time where you have to lean on it a little bit more. How much energy did you have to invest before they really took it over?
So let me start with, I've done a lot of, I do conference presentations, and I've kind of tried to branch out in the EdTech community and Google community, and I've seen a lot of schools and teachers with fears and resistance and challenges in implementing Google+. In Ossining and in the high school in my classes, it took work for sure, but really the students bought in and the teachers bought in because we saw pretty immediate results in engagement and learning. And actually, I did a study on the high school on the impact of GAFE on teachers and students on teaching and learning. And I polled all the students and all the teachers and got a pretty big sample set. And the community is still today are the most commonly used Google app by anyone in the high school.
Wait, say that again. I think I missed that because say that one more time.
So the Google Plus communities are the most commonly used Google app besides Drive.
I'm actually very surprised at that.
Yes, me too. I'm pulling up on the side here. I can give you the actual statistic, but it's pretty staggering.
Adam, tell them about the little research project you're doing.
Wow.
Little to me.
Not yet. I was going to say.
No, he's surveying all the teachers and students to see what they're using on his own.
So what I did was I put together a Google survey and I was able to get, I have it on the side here, I'm looking as we're talking, 47% of students feedback, which was 630 students, so it was a pretty huge sample set.
Yeah, it's a good sample.
43% of teachers, so a little smaller, but still significant data that I haven't been able to find in other places. And 81% of students say they use communities in meaningful ways and in their classrooms, whereas only 59% use Google Classroom right now.
So Adam, as an English teacher, what role do you see the community? Because a lot of, I was just in a class in another district, and we had kids do a simple text back channel, kind of introduce Extreme to them. And we were getting some feedback, and it's so funny because you get the sense that conversation is so high bandwidth, and they love conversing. So they saw it as, quote, not as fun. But there's a role to play, because as they were talking, they were actually referring to each other's posts, so they were making that connection.
That's nice.
Would you say that there's a level of interaction that you see happening in the community that supplements the classroom? Does it?
Yes.
Is there an immediate connection, and how do you see the distinction between?
So let me start with, I've been trying to do more back channeling, and I love the immediacy of things like Today's Meet, which I know you guys have running right now, like Twitter, where the feed is constantly refreshing itself. But at the same time, I think I'm really a fan of the idea that I feel like my kids are overwhelmed with so much technology, and I want to offer them a lot. But I like to try to keep things within Google as much as I can, unless it's effective and purposeful doing it otherwise. So for me, when I'm doing back channeling and discussion posts and things like that, I always try to stick to the community. And what I find about that, why I do it, is because it gives us one location where everything for my class is. It also, I like the idea, yes, it might slow down the pace of dialogue and conversation at times because you need to submit and you need to refresh to see the feed, but it also allows for a kind of balance between the fast-paced discussion and thoughtful responses that they can proofread, they can edit, they can post, they can respond, and those responses are then organized in meaningful ways that they're connected, they can tag each other, and those are the kinds of features I really use a lot.
Adam, have you ever had any kids basically disappear off the community from you?
It happens occasionally. What I find, though, is that the students who are not doing what they need to on the community, participating and learning in that way, are often students who wouldn't be doing it on paper. That it's not like I'm finding that the technology is the barrier in most cases. I think it actually works to engage those struggling students or students who might not, who might be resisting the work at times anyway. But it certainly happens. But it's the same. For me, it's been the same kind of challenge you would face no matter what. You have students who are resistant to the work.
I have a few more questions, but one just popped to mind about your colleagues. So in the study that you did when you were analyzing the use of what you have in your Google ecosystem, are you seeing other colleagues pick up Google Plus as naturally as easy as you?
Yes. The way it started was, and I'll post I have the link to the study in my full report. I can post that into the back channel if people are interested. So what happened was there were a handful of teachers who received the original training, and quickly my department, the English department at Ossining High School, is a close-knit and really wonderful department. And here I just posted that link. And a bunch of other people kind of jumped on fairly quickly. 2 other teachers, Katie Helly and Dawn Bayer, early last school year, got a Chrome cart to share because of their enthusiasm and work. And then since then, I'd say in my department, almost every teacher has a community. Most use them regularly, and I'd say throughout the school, they're being used more and more. I think the balance is a lot of teachers are either frustrated or confused about, well, why do I need a community when I have Classroom, or vice versa? And if Classroom came out this year, what's going to come out next year? Why should I learn how to do one thing when everything keeps changing?
Right.
Well, can you help clarify what
Sure.
you think the differences are between them? Because, like you said, a lot of people are struggling with that.
I think Google Classroom is wonderful as it is right now, but it is simplistic and it does one thing really well. And for me, that thing is it allows students it allows me to create a paperless classroom where students submit their work to me, I provide feedback and return it, and that is all. It holds everyone accountable. I never leave with papers anymore. There are those times in the back of your head where the kid's like, oh, I turned it in, and I'm searching my papers and I can't find it, and I'm just not sure if I messed up or not. That doesn't happen anymore. The student who says, oh, why you marked this late, I pull up my screen and I say, look, it's late. So it holds them accountable.
It holds them very accountable now.
And it does that. It allows students to submit work to the teacher. And yes, there are tons of other ways you could do it and other features, but for me, I find that's what I use it for because it does that really well. So for me, it's the summative work. It is the formal writing for the most part.
Right.
On the other hand,
it has changed your world, right?
tremendously. Oh, tremendously. Last year I created I used a script called G-Class Folders last year and created folders for my kids to submit work to me, and it worked well. But Classroom has transformed the way I grade writing, particularly.
I think I mentioned this before, but kind of being out in districts and seeing the whole Google story develop, I think Classroom is an accelerant to really understanding and unpacking things like, well, what does it mean to be able to share a Google document? How does that impact my workflow? Or what does that even mean in terms of the feedback process? So I'm thinking, Adam, and from a English teacher's perspective, you get to spy on work in the moment, in progress, and kind of form and fashion and help steer it and develop it. Do you generally find that the feedback that you're giving them is more valuable to them because it's not just, I've handed something in, you're going to mark it up, I get it back, and then really the dialogue stops? Have you noticed anything like that might encourage them to stick with their writing a little bit longer?
That is a great question, and it's actually one I've thought a lot about. And originally on my survey, I had questions about those questions about feedback there, but I decided that's going to be my next thing because for the students who aren't using it enough yet, it's not applicable. But I think that's a huge question, and what I'm finding is exactly that. So my workflow with Classroom typically is I'll make a copy of every assignment for the students. Even if they're writing an essay, I'll make them a copy of a blank document.
I was gonna actually ask you that. What I tell people, and I'm sure I want you to stress it because I think you agree, is instead of just creating an assignment and having the student create their own assignment and turn it in when they're ready, even if it's a blank document, you share out that blank document just so you can peek in on them. Is that what you're saying you do?
Yeah. One of the best tips I ever saw, I think, from Alice Keeler's blog on she writes Google Tips.
Okay.
And that was one of the best ones I found, that now no matter what they're working on, what pace they're at, I can always check in on their work and give feedback without having to do any extra work for it. And then typically I use Doctopus and Gubrick, which are add-ons for Google Sheets, to help give feedback, which allows me to import a rubric into my writing. So now I'm able to take and adapt Common Core rubrics or whatever rubrics I want to use for a project, and seamlessly, with a couple of clicks, give very specific targeted feedback to my students with writing, and it's wonderful. It saves me lots of time. It literally cuts my grading in half from when I was a slow grader by hand. I don't like writing. I don't like having to deal with paperwork. I'm much faster online, and it has saved me so much time.
Hey, Adam, since you use Google Plus Communities, have you struggled with the use of your classroom stream? What role does that play, if any?
None. For me, in Google Classroom, I do not do anything but post assignments. I know there are many people who do, and I think if you're in a school that doesn't open communities, I think it's a great option for now. I think it's got to get better before it could really be used as effectively as communities are. Maybe they merge one day, maybe they don't. But for me, I find that community is such a better option for what I do that I just don't touch that in classroom right now. But I do ideas on how to.
I remember when I was talking to you at the last event at Edith Macy, you were telling me that your students were basically begging you to post every single assignment in classroom because they liked going to that one place to find the assignment, even if it was just like read chapter 5 and he made it an ungraded assignment. They liked that it all just showed up in one place.
In one feed.
That,
they didn't have to search around to find their work. Do you still do that?
So personally, I don't do that. I decided a couple of them wanted it, but so the way I organize my work is I have a Google Doc that is my assignment calendar, and I publish that, and that is a public link that I give to parents, to anyone. So that's my one-stop. You check here to see what your homework is and what your classwork is, and I love that because it's so easy for me to update, and then I have it sort of turns into my retrospective lesson plans for the year, that I know what I did for the full scope of the year. And then based on that, that's where I give the details of where an assignment should go, because for me, I'm looking at it as oftentimes my work of formal writing goes in classroom, but if they're posting shorter writing, if they're doing a short piece of research or something, then it goes on the community and not classroom. So I like the idea better of one place to find the assignments, but there are multiple destinations depending on the purpose of how it will be turned in. So that's what works for me, at least.
Seems like you've got you've made sure to do a clear distinction between each environment without muddying the waters. I want to encourage you, if you're on the back channel right now, if you have any specific questions, we can relay them. And Adam, I think you even have the back channel up, so you can see the back channel as well. But so question: now that you're participating in this Google Hangout, and you understand that it's being streamed live to our YouTube channel, which means if anyone had the link, they could basically find and watch it live, or most of our guests do, they watch it archived. Do you see any value or insights into trying or experimenting or doing something like this to kind of extend or at least add on the face-to-face conversation?
Yeah, definitely. I love the idea that I have a lot of ideas that I haven't had the kind of necessity to make me jump on and move forward with, but I think there's great opportunities for me, like for writing extra help. I think for a teacher, at least a high school teacher, where your students have accounts and are able to do this. I'd love to be able to say, hey guys, at 6 o'clock I'm going to be on Google Plus. Let's have a hangout for 20 minutes if you need extra help, and things like that. Also, the more I'm looking to collaborate with other teachers in other schools, I have lots of email lists and Twitter and things like that. But I definitely see the potential for you. I mean, I don't have to leave my house to have a Google Hangout, and that meeting that could have taken an hour is now a focused 20 minutes instead, and I think that would be lovely.
One of the teachers, our first guest ever, said he uses Google Hangout during a snow day, because there were so many snow days last year. There were so many snow days last year. He taught a lesson from home, and he shared his screen, and he had a whole smart notebook lesson, and he shared his screen, and the students had a Today's Meet back channel. He had 2 screens up, and he taught a whole lesson from home, and every single student tuned in And the other classes were so jealous and were like, when are we going to do that? And they were all very excited about it.
That's very cool. I do a lot of flipped instruction, and I have used Hangouts on air for that, but never live. But I love the idea.
So Adam, now that you mentioned that, so that's also another big topic that we can spend a whole lifetime unpacking. But as a high school English teacher, what are some practices that you have that are flipped? What do you specifically decide to kind of offload so that you can make time for other things to happen when you're face to face or any other environment?
I think one of the benefits for me of having the Chromebooks in my classroom is that I can help students while they're working, and as this is the nature of flipped instruction, they should have my guidance as they're struggling to understand a concept or a skill. So whenever, in my mind, if my fear is, are we going to have enough time to make sure my students really understand what to do or how to do this, then I think, well, I could take the, not that I really lecture, but the mini lecture or whatever it is, and let's make that the homework instead. And that's kind of my philosophy there. In the high school in Ossining, we have a no sub required policy for upperclassmen. So if I am out, my classes are canceled and my work is flipped online. So when I'm absent, and I direct the drama program here, and so I have dress rehearsals, things like that occasionally. And to be perfectly honest, it really doesn't affect my lesson plan because I'm able to flip whatever I'm doing for that day. I have to adapt, of course, but it's really been a huge benefit for me to just be able to say, you're still doing the work and you're still getting the same thing.
But you're just getting it in a different sort of order of delivery, where I find that, students that are in the flipped classrooms, they almost come in more ready to learn because they have had sort of like the taste of what's coming, and you can kind of get to the real meat of the work in a way when you're in the classroom and you're with them. Just like you said, you're able to work with them while they're struggling, while they're trying to process that idea, and that's just the best part to be there at.
So Adam, what are some of the tools you use to actually create flipped content?
My favorite is MoveNote, which allows you to film yourself and create a video and import a Google Drive or PowerPoint presentation. So I tend to use Google Slides presentations pretty often, most days. So I'll import my Google Slides presentation into MoveNote and then record myself narrating it at the pace I want the students to move forward in information. So in my mind, it's very similar to if I was up in front of you describing and teaching you this lesson based on the notes. Well, I'm doing the same thing now. So then that gives me a video link that I share with the students. That's absolutely my favorite. Another thing I'll do often is I try to break up my flipped lessons with Google Forms. So you watch a 3-minute flipped video, and then I give you a form with a question based on it, comprehension or practice a skill or do research, something like that. You fill out the form, and then in the response page of the form is where you get the link to the next part of the assignment, whether that's another piece of writing, video.
Like a choose your own adventure lesson.
Also, Adam, what you should look into if you don't know about it is called video notes, and there's a period between the T and the E. And if you create your own videos and you post them to YouTube, the students can take notes simultaneously while watching the video, and it syncs with your Google Drive. And the other one that people like is
Educanon.
Educanon.
I always mix
Educanon. If you know about that one, you need to use that because you could use any YouTube video. You could use any YouTube video with either one. Sorry, I should clarify. You can create the quizzes within the video, so it actually pauses the video at a specific point that you say and asks the question, and then the student cannot move on at all until they answer the question. It actually
All right, I'll look into that. Very cool.
Yeah, it's Educanon, and then it actually keeps track for you and grades it. It does that chart where you could see how many students visually got question 1 wrong or how many each student got wrong. It's pretty awesome. You should look at that. Educanon.
That's very cool.
Links on our page too. So we're putting them on the today's meet, but we'll have a place that you can go.
We've just added 3 more hours onto the day for you. I'm not grateful about that. Although really, I think Educanon and Zaption, that solves the piece of, a lot of the concern is, sure, I can make this great content, but what are the behaviors that my kids are doing when they're actually watching it?
Sure.
How do you kind of ensure those pauses that you can insert?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Coolest thing that you've seen in terms of technology, either in your building or not in your building, that you did not initiate, but it made you kind of, something
Ooh,
recently?
I'd like to try that.
Yeah, something recent. May be Google related, may not be Google
Okay.
related.
All right, I have two. So 2 years ago, there is a French teacher here, Umar Sar, who he was the first one to bring communities to the district, and before we were a GAFE domain, and he presented at a faculty meeting, and this was the end of the school year before I got any training, or really, I was always a technology guy and I liked using technology, but I didn't have my head wrapped around it at the time, and he presented what he was doing and it blew me away. That I think is the first one, a little old at this point, but that's one that will always stick with me.
French teacher, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
The other one, an English teacher I work with, and I'm going to go tell her I talked about her here, Meg Reddington. I've never used Today's Meet in my classroom. I've used it for things like we are right now. But again, I try to, unless I have the purpose to do it outside of Google, I like sticking with Google when I can. She played a podcast in Visibilia from the people who do This American Life, and the students back-channeled on Today's Meet during it. And it was very, very, very cool, and it made me jealous. And immediately, 2 days later, I did had my students were performing a play, Fences, in the auditorium during our class, and I had them back channeling as a result of watching what she had done.
Wow! So you really put that into practice pretty.
Oh yeah, I saw it. I was like, this is really cool. I'm doing it tomorrow, which is one of my personality flaws or strengths here.
To tag onto your drama. How you work with the drama club. Can you just tell everyone the wheelchair story? Because it's technical. It's very technical. It's a very cool story. I love it. You'll like it.
All right. I don't know if I'm getting in trouble for this one, but and in drama, anyone watching in the area, we open Loserville, the Ossining Drama Spring Musical, next Wednesday. But in the fall, we put on a show called The Love of Three Oranges, and we borrowed a wheelchair from the nurse's office. And somewhere in the course of returning it, a piece fell off, and we could not find it. So the solution at the time, which to us was kind of a throwaway, hey, here's what we should do, is we've got a big engineering club. Let's 3D print a new one. About 3 months later, Alana and I were
Repeat it because it got cut off. I don't think she heard it.
So a wheelchair was missing a piece from our.
What was the resolution?
Okay, so someone threw out the joke like, oh, let's just 3D print a new one, and it was a totally offhand comment. Alana and I were at a lyric event at Edith Macy, and I'm sitting there just looking through the local news or whatever during a break, and I see an article about the engineering club 3D printing for the wheelchair. So technology used everywhere in Ossining.
There's so many right things about that story, unless of course we just outed you.
No, I think it's so
wheelchair,
cool that the engineering club 3D printed a piece to fix the wheelchair.
Yeah, hopefully the nurse's office didn't realize the part was even better than the original.
That's amazing. So Adam, in terms of your own learning, we'll wrap up because we know this is the end of the day for you, but what, when you look to see what are your interests, what are things that you're actually pursuing, what's next for you?
Okay, so I'm an English teacher, but I love numbers, and I love the idea of, I presented at a lot of conferences, and one of the presentations I do a lot is I call it Building a Better Community, using Google Plus to engage learners, and there's a longer title, but the general idea is using Google Plus to build a community in your classroom. And I've done a lot of that where I talk about the things I see, but now I want to get more quantitative results. I want to know, how can we prove this? So I find that there's an exceeding lack of data in the edtech world and in practical classroom application of how in your classroom, what are the results that you see, and then how can we prove it? And I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on in the future. I'm trying to get that data or make that data and figure out, be able to kind of prove the things I know to be true in my classroom.
If it looks anything like the report you shared, which was extremely impressive.
Wow,
I mean, that
know.
was a lot of, I mean, there's a lot of thought that went into that and a lot of analysis. I mean, your colleagues must have been really overwhelmed.
Yeah.
If that doesn't make a strong case for Google Communities,
Right.
I don't know what would.
But for now, English teacher, Google education trainer, and I'm loving kind of branching out, presenting at conferences and consulting, and we'll see what else.
And now that you're officially on a Live from Model Schools hangout, who knows what will come knocking at your door
Absolutely.
as a result of this. So really appreciate it, Adam. It was so nice to actually get to talk to you rather than
Definitely.
gawk at you from a distance receiving an award. So if your summer plans allow, please come see us. We're actually, and I'll just address you in the audience, we're in the process of putting together our summer institutes. And over the past few summers, we've tried to really take advantage of the fact that people can expend multi-day commitments. So most of the work we're going to be doing here are going to be nice 3-day institutes where just when you're think you're sinking your teeth into it, you'll have at least a very satisfying amount of time to really digest and interact. Summertime is really nice around here in this building, and we're really planning on coming out with something really extraordinary. Look for that around mid-April to be released.
Great.
So we hope that we can see you and some of your colleagues here.
Yeah, I'm sad I'm not going to be able to make Tech Expo this year, but I will definitely put the summer on my calendar.
Why?
My best friend from college is getting married.
Oh, you told me that. You told me that.
All right. Well, in the spirit of everyone in the world now knows, congratulations.
College.
That's right.
I will certainly let him know. I'm a little annoyed at him for the date because Tech Expo was actually my first Ed Tech conference and first presentation ever.
Well, I would make a snide comment about doing a Google Hangout in, but I think it'd be inappropriate. So we'll let it go with that.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Adam. Next
Thank
time maybe
you.
we'll pair you with Marcus, who seems to be a kindred spirit, but we're going to get him on from Brewster next month. Thank you to all who are watching this that were not in the back channel. Thank you to everyone who will take the time to watch it later. And of course, for our friends in today's meet right now. So we will officially say farewell and hope to see you on the next episode. Again, Leslie, Alana, and May, this was live from Model Schools, and we really appreciate your time and interest.
Okay. Bye.
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 Bye, Adam.